Hello. Sorry about that, everybody. Technical difficulties and all that. My computer decided to spaz out on me and decided to just stop working for whatever reason in the middle of the stream, and it was a little distracting. So I had to get that fixed. But we're up again now. Everything seems to be going smoothly, and I welcome you all back to today's episode of The Red Scared on the People's Voice Network. Now, to reiterate what I was saying last time, in case you're one of the viewers that missed when I was talking about it originally, gun violence in America. Gun violence in America is a very unique beast. It is not a one cause, one effect issue. It is a direct result of the status quo neglecting the material needs of American society. And mass shootings, if anything, are an indicator, a telltale sign of societal collapse. We refuse to acknowledge that it's a very intersectional, I guess you could say, problem. Poverty, white supremacy, lack of access to healthcare, a lack of access to education, crumbling infrastructure, horrible workplace conditions, wages that cannot keep up with the standard of living, horrible amounts of crime due to poverty, corruption at every level, unemployment, homelessness, police violence. There is so much wrong with the United States of America. And the gun violence that we're seeing, the absolute barbarism that we've been witnessing from American society is a direct result of that. It is a side effect. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that, I'm not going to be one of these morally grandstanding people and say, oh, don't politicize mass shootings, don't politicize tragedies. People do not politicize things when they propose solutions to a problem. If I see that gun violence is a problem and I propose a solution, if somebody blocks that solution from being implemented at a government level because they're being funded by the gun lobby, or they just want to keep their precious, AR-19s or whatever the fuck, they are the ones politicizing it. Direct political opposition to something is what causes it to be politicized. And 9 out of 10 times, the people who are opposing common sense solutions are the people who are politicizing it. And it's a joke to say otherwise. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that just complete unrestricted access to firearms is playing no part in these mass shootings. It is. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend that implementing the harshest restrictions on guns in America is the solution. I get where a lot of Americans are coming from when they see countries with low rates of gun violence and they want to copy what those countries are doing and apply it to the United States of America. And while I totally respect that and I understand where you're coming from and I believe your heart's in the right place, you are being misled because these are oftentimes very, very different countries. The United States has some of the most, it's built on such a foundation of unrelenting violence. It's a country that is built on the blood of so many people. It is a country with evil ingrained into its skeleton. It's a country with so many systemic issues, so much poverty, so much political polarization, so much violence, so much white supremacy, so much abject misery, that gun violence is not just a result of poor gun policy. It is a direct result of, like I said, neglecting the material needs of the working class, leading to the downside of society. And gun culture in America is also a very unique beast that you could say feeds into the beast that is gun violence, that is mass shootings. With the amount of, pro Second Amendment people that are walking around the United States with assault rifles strapped to their backs, you'd think America's oppressive, horrible government would have been overthrown by now. You would think that America would be a better place. But no, it's not, because those people don't stand for that. The majority of people who are heavily armed in the United States to that level are indeed far-right white supremacists. And it is a huge, huge issue. Now, as leftists, we are faced with a predicament because America is, like we said, a very unique beast. I think it's totally possible to argue that there should be restrictions on what kind of guns you can buy and who can and can't buy those guns, as long as they come from a rational place of, like, wanting to keep people safe. And I can also believe that you can be pro gun in the sense that you believe that your people should have access to firearms. The working class should have access to firearms to protect themselves from the state. I believe that these two stances can coexist. However, I am not an expert on firearms in America. I'm not an expert on guns. I'm not an expert on gun laws. I'm not an expert on gun culture. I'm not an expert on any of this stuff. I am a Canadian. It is very difficult to get guns in Canada. And even when you're able to, the kind of guns you can buy and what aspects of those guns are okay to allow and not okay, it's all very restricted and tightly controlled by the government to a very absurd extent. In fact, I've mentioned several times how I believe that gun laws in Canada tightened after Indigenous rebellion during the Oka crisis in order to prevent armed minorities from resisting government oppression. But that's a topic for another day, or we could maybe touch on it in today's episode. So I brought on a comrade of mine. His name is Austin. You've seen him on the People's Voice Network before. You've seen him on panels. You've seen him everywhere. This guy is from Alabama. He has experience with guns. He knows quite a bit about gun laws. And he is one of the toughest sons of bitches you'll ever meet. And I am glad to have him as a comrade. So, everybody, please say hello to Austin, coming in from Alabama with his big old "It's Time for Medicare" all sign behind him. How you doing, Austin?
Well, after that intro, I've got some goals to meet. I don't know if I'm the toughest son of a bitch, but I am definitely an asshole. So anyway, thank you for having me. Yep, Medicare for All, and yeah, here to talk about the Constitution, the Second Amendment, and where my white American ass and sitting in Alabama sees it, I guess. So
go ahead, Austin. Tell the people exactly where your expertise on guns comes from. Your expertise on guns and gun laws. Go ahead, tell them.
So I'll start back as far as like growing up in Alabama. I first went hunting, I swear, at the age of 4, maybe 5. Getting out there, and I remember they let me shoot a shotgun. Yeah, I went up, pulled that trigger, threw my ass into the tree, and all the folks around just laughed their ass off. So that was my first trigger pull, I guess. So my first experience with guns was they're very dangerous and they're always loaded. Yeah. And I was, my dad and my family had a heavy respect for it's fucking death in your hands, right? Like a magician or a wizard. Yeah.
You could.
You're a metal wizard with a, whatever. So then, went hunting, eat, deer meat stew. Love it still. Go vegans. I'm a piece of shit meat eater. But I do look forward to vat grown meat. So then, grew up, didn't really, started not going out hunting as I got older, and honestly haven't done it in many, many years. But after that, after growing up, and Uncle had a gun rack in his truck and that shit. You ever seen one of those?
Yeah, I have.
I ain't seen one in a minute. I'd like to. I don't know. I don't know if I'd want to see one in it, but whatever. So yeah, and, you should just drive around with your gun rack with the guns in it. Yeah. Uh, but then I joined the military, and I joined at 18. I think I signed paperwork at 18, and then or no, I might have been 19. I can't even fucking remember anymore. I think I was 19. Anyway, and I signed up. I went not as a infantryman or combat soldier. Military has different levels. I joined the army, and I went into generators. But with that, and already having a very healthy respect for the deadliness of weapons, basic training, they gave us our basic rifle marksmanship, which was well towards the end of the basic training, and you pretty much sat out in the dirt for a week shooting till your fingers bled. Like literally, like my fingertips were, because we were in Kentucky, and my fingertips were cracked and bleeding and shit. Yeah, it's good times. So I'd never experienced that. I was like, oh, the cold hurts. All right, okay. So basic rifle marksmanship, and further, I served 21 years, and we did a lot of other training. We went to war. We trained for war. But like I said, I was originally a generator mechanic on my first deployment. Did do convoys and stuff like that. Back then there was a big thing like, oh, women don't fight, women, blah, blah, that dumb shit. And
did you ever see combat?
I did not see. No, that's what I'm saying. I wasn't an infantryman. I didn't. Experience.
Oh no, I'm not saying.
No.
Fight. Did you ever see that happen? Like
yes.
Go out or something?
Yeah. Oh yes. But it was, they say inside the wire and outside the wire. Yeah. So my first deployment, I was more outside of the wire. My second deployment, which was with a drone task force, one of the, I think the first, that was a lot more. Well, we got all the feeds. So there you go.
How did the military handle? Sorry, how did the military educate you on firearms and guns versus what you grew up with? Because what you're saying, like when you were a kid and when you were younger, your experience with guns was very tethered to people who were out in the country hunting, teaching you to go out and shoot a few rounds, stuff like that. And the military obviously is very different. So how did that differ?
So absolutely, just in a nutshell, informal versus formal, right? So formal military training, I thought about how I breathed. Maybe that's the first time I ever was introduced to meditation, was how to pull a trigger. So, but they have this thing, like, see if I can remember it, brass. It's like breathing, your sight picture, your trigger pull, your position, these basic fundamentals. So
they tell you it's more of an art form that you have to master when you're
it's a machine. You're attached to that machine, and your body affects that machine. Yeah.
Would you say that
your body and that machine affects, well, more than affects, kills other bodies? Yeah,
it does. I mean, it's the U.S. military we're talking about, right? They
just a pistol, a rifle, Hell.
Yeah. So would you say
Jason Bourne fucked them motherfuckers up with that pen? Anyway.
Yeah, That shit was pretty funny when I saw it. But would you say that that is the main difference between folks who are in the military versus those like really armed, like those guys who walk around with bulletproof vests into Starbucks with like 9 rifles on their backs and shit like that? Would you say the main difference between them and folks in the military is discipline? Would you say that the military knows how and where and why and to handle guns, like
there that's a great that's a great thing. I think the discipline probably plays some factor into it, right? So let's look at some of this stuff though. So there's discipline of the soldier, but and before that soldier even gets a weapon, right? There's Army had our Army values, which is loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, personal courage. And they started talking about those things and the discipline and instilling those things before they handed us a weapon. So that's one thing, right? The discipline stuff. But with that on a base, you ain't really getting a weapon on a base. The military folks, and not to say there's not issues, but the military folks, all them weapons is locked up. And when I say locked up, Angelina Jolie ain't getting in that motherfucker. Neither is Black Widow, whoever. They ain't getting in the, you know what I'm saying? Like for real. They're behind cages, locked in cages. Each one's locked up.
So they only take out guns when they have to go out for missions, or if
not only that though. If you live on base, everybody knows if you have a gun. In some bases, you have to store your weapon at your unit's armory, locked up. Yeah. So even we are these highly trained, skilled military folks, yada yada. We know how dangerous that shit is. Look how many locks we put on our shit. Yeah. And we're the masters, right?
Yeah.
Well, listen to the fucking masters and lock that shit up. You know what I'm saying?
It feels like all these guys walk around pompously thinking that they're in the military because they're carrying an AK-47 on their back with like armor and shit like that. They think that makes them professional. They think it makes them, tough. And they think they're walking around thinking that they're soldiers, but the actual military is more disciplined with firearms, at least on home base, than these people are. Walking around like they think that they're cool and shit. No one looks at them thinking that they're cool.
I think maybe there is, that walking around cool swag shit, right? People like to be noticed, yada yada. But I think it more comes from fear, in my opinion.
Fear.
Yeah,
So it's to strike fear into people, you'd say.
It does do that, but it's from their own fear, is what I mean. They're so scared of their community and neighbor. They're so alien to them. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody is an enemy. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what they've been telling us. We ingest that, we internalize all that negativity and toxicity and shit. I mean, but this isn't the only shit, right? There's a lot of problems.
There's a lot of problems, yeah. But that is one of the things I wanted to touch on. I guess we'll touch on it now. Is the sense that in America, it's very unique to Americans specifically, where you can have just an entire group of people who are just like what you said. You go into their homes and it's like filled with firearms and shit like that. They'll openly state that they don't trust the government, and they'll walk into a grocery store with an AR-15 and a vest and shit like that, looking like they're in a fucking action movie and shit like that. They don't trust everyone. Everyone's the enemy, but they're still very anti-government, but clearly not left-wing or stuff like that. But these are large groups of people. It's like a subculture in America revolving around guns. In fact, when you think of people who own a lot of guns in America, you think of these people. So where does this come from? Where does this culture come from? Where did it originate? And you're from the South. You're in Alabama, for Christ's sake. Where do you think these people come from? What makes them them?
My opinion, at the core of it is white supremacy. Yeah, like at the core of it, look at the militia part. They love that damn part of the Second Amendment. Look at that. It says militia in there, y'all. Look at that. Look, man, I want one of them. So yeah, militia. They like that part. So in theory, right? It's like community protection and stuff like that. But in reality, it's, do you look like me? And are you like, I don't know, do you like Jewish space lasers? You know?
I remember that conspiracy theory.
Yeah. Well, and so, I've heard some things about, the founding of this nation a lot. Founding this nation, my dad, he to talk a little bit about weapons and mental illness and stuff. My dad has a theory. He says all those folks that decided to come here were mentally ill, all the colonizers, and as such, all their progeny are, as in us. So that's my dad's theory of American mental health. But on a the stat is what, like 288 this year. Last year, the next closest country was Mexico, with 8 mass shootings. A country in a drug war has less mass shootings than us.
Yeah, a drug war that is facilitated by American demand for drugs. Let's keep that in mind.
Which is created through lack of material means, and then people searching for other ways to escape, and then becoming addicted to them instead of fucking it's all a big pile of shit.
Yeah, Mexico is in shit because they have America as their neighbor, right? Canada doesn't have it as bad because we're above them. Mexico has it bad because they're beneath the U.S. They literally eat shit from the United States. So that's basically why the country has so many issues. But
hey, shout out to Mexico, man. They're trying to do some things down there.
They're trying. They're holding themselves together.
Yeah.
Hopefully they get through everything. But essentially, what I'm very much interested in is, the gun laws in the United States. So gun laws in Texas are loose as fuck from what I've seen. That this guy was just able to purchase all that shit at the age of 18 years old. I don't know where the hell he got that money to do that from. I'm going to assume that he stole it, or they're not giving us much information to go off on that. I doubt that he used a credit card for that shit. But
it certainly wasn't a stimulus check. So
this wasn't a fucking stimulus check. Maybe he saved up 2 stimulus checks from way back and decided, I'm going to purchase a gun and then, do this. But gun laws are very loose in the United States, obviously. Now, as leftists, we're given a little bit of a conflicted area here because Marxists, socialists, and communists, the hardline revolutionaries, the boys, they are of the mindset, and I am of this mindset, that the working class must be armed against the bourgeoisie. However, it is very clear still that that mindset was indeed adopted in a time where before everyone had access to stuff like semi-automatic guns and shit like that. We have, I don't know if in any of the U.S. states you could buy rocket launchers or anything like that, but I wouldn't be surprised if you, oh my God, you're smiling. Holy shit. That's not a good sign.
Well, no, I was just thinking right down the road next to my hometown, we can take tank rides. There's a tank ride park down there, you know. But as far as heavier weaponry, uh, there's other things to talk about. But hey, look, I met engineers. You can figure it out. Trust me.
My God, dude. Yeah, I want to ask you, how do you personally think, with your experience with guns and your knowledge of gun laws, how should leftists approach the topic of gun restrictions? Let's just talk about restrictions first, because I mentioned before how all this violence was the result of a collapsing civilization, and no just single law could possibly undo all this damage. But still, gun restrictions, it is, it doesn't exactly help when you can just allow 18-year-olds to purchase weapons of death like that, right? So, what do you think, in terms of gun restrictions, could be done? What do you think is the appropriate response here, at the bare minimum?
You know, this answer shall be wholly incomplete, but I saw some folks on late night news promoting gun buyback programs. And they brought on, I think, Miss Jacinda from New Zealand, and talked about the success that New Zealand had with their buyback program, and the tragedy that their country went through at Christchurch and the response to it. And, something must be done. I think buying some guns back probably will have a positive effect. I would like to point out that it's taxpayer money that's buying these guns. Maybe we can all give them to the 18-year-olds when they turn 18. A birthday present for every American 18-year-old, a weapon.
That's a conservative.
It's in the Second Amendment. Shouldn't I get it? I should get a gun at birth or something.
That's a libertarian wet dream if I've ever heard one. Oh God, that is. But yeah,
I jest. So that I think that's a part of it. I think there's a lot of other things that that they're missing. Like one thing from what I gathered is from down there is they knew about that kid. That goes back to their laissez-faire attitude, I guess. But if you look and you read, you'll see that, like, the assault weapons ban, like, going out to a range and shooting stuff that that target shooting is fun. Other day I learned all those old trick artists, all those old Western trick shooters, they all use 22s. Didn't know that. So they're like, I'm like, all right, Annie, I got you. Okay. So we got gun buyback funded by taxpayers. We got red flag laws. We've got I said something else. I'm sorry. I'm losing my red flag. Yeah, red flag, background checks. Friends, so we're talking a little bit about, like, my American experience. The last time I purchased a weapon, I went there and showed them all my stuff, yada yada. They're like, okay, come back in, like, you got to come back in like 3 days. I was like, okay, all right. So I went back, and I still had to come back again. There's still something, like, whatever. And there's just a little going out. Bought a little rifle to teach the kids, a little bolt action. So so yeah, but at the heart of all of it is, in my opinion, a white male patriarchy supremacy society that is driving the narrative on everything. Hate and fear your neighbors. They're all out to get you. By the way, you can't have any fucking medicine if
If
or
you're poor.
therapy or whatever. If so there's a lot of material conditions tied to it, and all the material conditions and shit is tied to the oligarchy. But there are things that can be done. I mean, look, city councils can pass and change laws in their city. You don't have to wait on the federal government. As a matter of fact, I suggest never wait on the federal government. Is a, and not to say, that's a, government issues
It's valid.
aside.
It's valid for you to say that because every single time there's a mass shooting, the president always gets on the news and says, this is a tragedy. We got to fight gun violence, fight white supremacy, whatever the fuck that means. It's like you're the president, motherfucker.
Yeah. Well, did you get a chance to read his executive order regarding everything?
What was his executive order? Because
he laid out. I got it somewhere, but he laid out 5-point executive order. I read through it. Saw effectively nothing new except I don't know. They're probably going to try to sneak some precog shit in there. But the one thing that I did see was interesting was the National Academy of Sciences, they've tasked them with some authoritative research and data collection on guns, right? As if you need that fucking shit. It just
we don't need a bunch of scientists to tell us that gun violence in America is, like we've said, the aftermath of a neglected society, of a neglected, collapsing society. It's a bunch of things that lead to a country filled with people who are just so evil that they'll shoot defenseless people.
Well, that's another thing. That place, that school, had all of everything that a police force wanted, needed. Yeah, to train. Yeah, and they absolutely did nothing.
They fucked it up so bad. I've never seen a worse police response in my life.
I'm sick.
19 kids, man. 19 people.
I know.
And it weirds you out because the cops have guns. They have the equipment. They have bulletproof vests.
They ain't got the heart, son. they signed up to be shitheads.
To brutalize the people, yeah.
For the most part, I'm not going to say that every damn one of them sucks, but ACAB motherfuckers.
Yeah, because it's just one big club at this point. Like, if you're a cop that's shitty...
It's a jobs program.
Yeah, if you're a cop that's shitty and you're protecting a cop that's shitty while being a cop who's trying not to be shitty, you're shitty.
All these institutions and organizations of power operate the same. They're insular. They gather their power. They all fuck each other. They all fuck kids. They all beat their wives. They all do the same shit because they're all the same shitty type of people running the shit. They're transparent. They're fucking. They're exhausting for one thing, but fuck that. You know what? Fuck exhaustion. I'll take some of them super soldier pills they're making and stay up marching for 80 miles at a click.
Throw me some of those pills.
Yeah,
I
right.
could use some. But
First thing though, I'll clean my house. How about that?
yeah, clean your house before you take super soldier syrup, Steve.
No,
Rogers.
I take the super soldier shit to clean the house.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then you have the energy to clean the house.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I want to touch on is that a lot of Americans who are anti-gun or pro-gun control or whatever, they idolize countries that have very strict gun laws like New Zealand. And they think to themselves, it's a simple game of take the laws that they got and apply it right over here. Now, I'm not an idiot. I understand where you're coming from, and it's a desire to make your country better. But if you were to just overnight, if you had a president pass a bunch of executive orders to make the gun laws of America air fucking tight like that, I can't tell you the amount of civil unrest that would cause. I cannot tell you the amount of white supremacist backlash that would cause. I can't tell you the amount of violence, reactionary violence that would actually occur. These people who are anti-government, like fuck the state and all that shit, the right-wingers and their sundown towns and their isolated communities where they train their Christian youth kids from birth how to shoot black people. Do you think these people are going to sit on their asses when the government tells them that they're not allowed to carry guns anymore? No, they're fascists waiting for an opportunity like that. If anything, I think guns need to be in the hands of people who are not just well trained, not just pro-gun safety, not just competent, but guns need to be in the hands of people who are genuinely good. Guns are weapons of death. They are machines of death. One trigger pull and you can end somebody's life. Now, depending on the gun you have, you could do it like quickly, or it may take a few shots, but it still stands. Now, it is very clear to me that the gun violence in America is solely the responsibility and the fault of the ruling class. Because, what do you expect in a country like America, which doesn't have its shit together at all? You guys have a joke of a healthcare system. You guys have shitty infrastructure, shitty education. You have white supremacy around every corner, which preys on people living in poverty and gives them a different enemy to hate rather than the ruling class. You have just the worst wages that can't keep up with the standard of living, an increasingly costly standard of living. Recently, your baby formula is expensive. Your gas prices are going through the roof. Your rent prices are out of control. The material needs of the working class have been neglected to such an extent that not only is unrestricted access to guns a problem, but it has manifested itself into a snake that eats its own tail. This is the telltale sign of a collapsing society, when people just start losing their shit and picking on the defenseless and doing what they call going out in a blaze of glory. The Columbine kids were, I think, the precursor to all of this, because despite they weren't the first mass shooters, but they were definitely like the most famous at the time because what they did was unprecedented.
I mean, if you want to put it like they're the first postmodern killers, I it started with Whitman, and almost said Walt Whitman, Charles Whitman. It started with him in I think '66 in Texas, the tower shooting, and I was looking and thinking and reading about him, and he was Marine trained, for a lot, looked like a decent person, and guess what happened? Ends up shooting a lot of people, and he had a brain tumor. So that's where our first mass shooter came from, was a brain tumor. Now, you would have think that would have been a fucking hint, wouldn't you? Yeah. Like, oh, this might nah, nobody's ever gonna have a mental issue and pick up a weapon ever again. That'll never happen. Fast forward to now, you know. But yeah, but the amount of damage that he did by comparison to, you know, post uh, assault weapon ban. I don't know. I assume y'all can't have AR-15s up there and whatnot.
No, we can't.
Okay.
Assault weapons up here, nah.
Did you know that citizens, whatever,
Citizens, the Canadian.
citizens down here at one point couldn't buy assault weapons. That was only, you know, a recent thing. I'm thinking that came in with the NRA in the Reagan era, where they really, really commodified America's, you know, ability to buy shit.
Are you saying that Reagan allowed the American public to start buying automatic weapons?
I might be misremembering my history, but I believe that is when there was a change in assault weapon laws. Is, you know, so yeah, back to little childhood, you know. I did skip some shit between that and the military. Like, you know, I shot my first automatic weapon at 10. Like, they had automatic weapons and shit, and I learned how to shoot that shit when I was a kid. And, you know, little Mac 10, it's a 45 cal, and you know, I think I had Steyr AUG, which is Australian bull pup, various shit. But yeah, I was shooting fully automatic weapons when I was 10. But this is 1980 something, 88. I can't remember how old. 89, I think. So yeah, you know, I guarantee you nobody had no automatic weapons growing up when my dad was growing up or his dad was growing up. But sure enough, there you go. The assault weapons bans, that having an effect. Yeah. Because, you know, there is there's a physics involved. Like, yeah, like people can fuck people up with a pistol for sure. But like when
assault weapons allow you to do more damage.
You are so much more precise. You're so much more accurate. Both, whatever. But in the amount of like the rounding, the platform, like trying to like look, you're scrunched up like this. Look how like you're all there. You're all like versus this. Look how like you're way easier with a pistol to miss shit. Way easier. So, I mean, that's just some basic bullshit. Like, you know, it's everything, man, and it's in our Constitution. Yeah, and in our Constitution. Have you ever read our Constitution?
I've actually tried to read your guys' Constitution. It's a bit of a jargled mess, but I have taken some glances at it. I will admit I need to read it. But is there anything of interest in the Constitution that you?
Well, I mean, let me just read the Second Amendment because it is brutally short. Second Amendment: a well-regulated militia being necessary. So in times of need. Let me just read the fucker and then I'll be an asshole. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms. shall not be infringed. Shall not be infringed. You know, and all these, you know,
It said the right to bear arms.
Constitutionalists. Yeah, well, it first said well-regulated, a well-regulated militia. That's laws. Okay, who makes up a militia? The people.
It's very vague.
So the people, a well-regulated militia of people, yeah, or a well-regulated people being necessary. So in times of need, yeah, if there's no time of need for shooting folks, defending yourself, of a free state, the security of a free state. So there we're getting into states' rights, and then the right of the people to keep and bear arms. They want to be cheap is my interpretation of that. They wanted you to buy your shit, and when the militia needed to show up, hey, y'all militiamen with y'all still got them rifles we told you to buy? Good. Come on. We got a genocide to do. Shall not be infringed.
See, so, that's really strange.
But this is how grammar works though. A well-regulated militia shall not be infringed. They like reading it like that. They also, the right of the people to keep and bear arms. Okay, arms, multiple.
You see, it says the right to bear arms. It doesn't say what kind of arms. Like, it doesn't specify. I guess guns back then lacked diversity.
But it does, yeah. But it does say well-regulated. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because even back then, like I pointed out with my experience as a soldier, the soldiers back then didn't just like fucking walk around with their fucking muskets all day with gunpowder and shit. They still, they had it when they're on duty, or if you're a farmer or whatever, you picked up your gun and then you went out in the woods and you shot your food and then you brought that bitch back and you put your gun up. It's a tool. It was effectively beyond its killing of people.
Yeah,
it was a tool to serve to also for food.
Have you seen people hunting with automatic rifles? Bears, moose?
I have not. I'm sure that shit is on the internet. I'm sure it's disgusting. When I was in my first deployment to Iraq, we heard about folks flying in helicopters, shooting camels and shit and cooking them, but I never got to, or never saw that, never, got to. It was the special forces guys, you know what I mean? So, barbecued camel. Where were we talking? Oh, Second Amendment. So yeah. So there we have it. That because this is one major functional difference. We talk about differences and shit. Is there's no other country that comes to mind, and mind you, this is from a layman and my research is light, that says, yo, one of your rights is like guns. Like, it might say you have a right to self-defense and shit like that, but they're talking about the tool, the thing, not the abstraction, the actual idea, security, whatever you want to fucking call it up there. They're focused on their highly illogical fantasies about the logistics of the world and how shit works. Because that's another thing. How much money, you tell me, how much money do you think a gun buyback program in the United States would cost at, let's say, $50 a gun?
Well, we can
do the math right here, because there's like what, what's our population? 380 or
380 million.
380 million times. We got 380 million times 50. Yeah, times, I think there's almost 3 guns per person in America.
Yeah.
So times 3. So let's go with 3 because this is back of the napkin, and yeah, it's never going to happen. So
that's a fuck ton of money, I can imagine. Jesus.
So 380,123.
I imagine it could be achieved in a socialist America where all the corporations are owned by the people and they actually pay their fair share in fucking taxes, and that tax money is used for the benefit of the people. But no, unfortunately, Americans don't live in that fucking society. But god damn. And yeah, this comment right here,
60, let's call it 60 billion. We're looking at 60 billion. Shit, what's that? We just sent that shit to Ukraine, didn't we?
Ain't nobody selling gun they spent $500 on for $50. Yeah, unfortunately, that's the reality.
Yeah.
I want to get to the point of this discussion, though, because I want to say that guns, when I say guns should be in the hands of good people for good intentions, I don't mean police and I don't mean military. I believe a lot in what the Black Panthers believe. I believe that if you're going to open carry, if you're going to insist on having guns, you have to know how to use them. You have to be skilled in them. And the cause of carrying these guns can't be for yourself. You have to carry guns or at least have guns with the intent on defending your community. And what I mean by that is the people who I look up to the most when it comes to examples of how you truly use your guns are the Native people who stood up to the Canadian government during the Oka crisis, the people who held off the Canadian government. And the only reason they were able to hold them off is because they had heavy weapons with them. And they were willing to face down the Canadian military to protect their land. The Mohawk people, God bless them. The Black Panthers, they formed armed militias and patrolled Black neighborhoods, not just to make sure that no one was hurting each other.
You know what? They were a well-regulated militia. Look at that.
They were a regulated militia.
Look at that.
They were a regulated militia. Unlike these white supremacists that walk around with their "Don't Tread on Me" stickers on the back of their cars, the Black Panthers had something to actually fight for. They had a cause. They had a willingness to fight. The Tenacious Unicorn Ranch, those amazing motherfuckers, they are of the same mindset. If you are going to insist on carrying weapons of war on you, then you have to be willing to have a cause to fight for. You have to have a people worth protecting, and you have to know to use that gun at the proper discretion. You cannot use it to threaten. You cannot use it to intimidate. Gun ownership is not just a matter of this is a trigger, this is a safety. Don't point it at people if it's loaded. Always check the magazine. Gun ownership is about this is a weapon that could take someone's life. Why do you want it? And are you willing to go through with using it if you are pushed to shove? That is what gun ownership should be in the United States. Gun ownership should be in the hands of good people. Look at those parents that tried to break into the school so that they could help their children, right?
I'll make it real simple. I'll make it real simple for folks. If the thought of shooting somebody sickens you, you're probably a good gun owner, you know, and you're probably a decent person. So kid up.
Yeah, get up. This is what I've been saying for a while. It's like that meme of it's like, you know, I don't think it should be me. That's why it must be you. Like that's the whole thing. It's like, I don't want to have to do this. And it's like, then you're the perfect person to do it. Gun ownership in America. Back to the issue of gun violence. You want to solve gun violence in America? Here's what you got to do. Address and tackle white supremacy in every shape and or form. Give the people Medicare for all. Give them access to education so they can educate themselves out of their, out of their ignorance and shit like that. Give them access to social programs. Allow them for heroin injection sites, drug rehabilitation, rehabilitation in general, rehab. Pay them a living wage so they don't have to be mentally on the brink every time they get a paycheck and they don't know what to spend it on. Make healthcare free. Give them Medicare for all. Fund your infrastructure, for God's sakes. It's crumbling down all around you, so that people can get to the jobs that they need to work at. Fund agriculture so y'all can feed yourselves more, because the supply chains are getting disrupted. Create a better society. Your gun violence is not just unrelenting access to guns. It is a direct result of your government neglecting the needs of you, so that the ruling class can have access to everything they want. Yes, unrestricted access to guns is a problem. No background checks is a problem. No red flag laws is a problem. All of those things are problems, and they should be addressed appropriately with those appropriate laws. However, the fact that gun violence persists in America, even in places that have strict gun laws, because the Pulse nightclub happened in a supposed gun-free zone, even in cases like that, you haven't done the work to create a better material society for your workers. You're still going to get violence. Violence is a direct result of poverty, and poverty is eugenics. You want to stop gun violence in America, you gotta stop poverty. Let me ask Austin a question here. Austin, a lot of the people who you probably know a lot of people who are crazy in the head, who are like, oh, I have these guns, man. The government's going to turn our brains into space spaghetti or something like that. Those trailer park guys that are very sheltered and they're very paranoid and stuff like that. What do you think can be done to reach out to those people and give them a better outlook on life, so they don't become so sheltered with their guns like they're stuffed animals?
Well, I mean, it goes back to, as you said, it's a choice by our government, ran by corporations. That person out there, disconnected from everybody, well, I can't help them, but their family can. And but my real suggestion is you don't go talk to them. You go find somebody else to go talk to them, because I swear, every time I try to talk to my family about something, they don't want to listen. Fair enough.
Man, I feel you, bro. I feel you. I have that same problem. Mutual aid networks. Yes. You know what? I think I've come up with it. Guns. You said it yourself, Austin. There's 3 times as many guns as there are people in America. That is fucking enormous. It is very clear that no government action, even if it is taken, which if it was, it won't be enough, will ever be able to make America gun free. That'll never happen.
I think that's kind of an illusion. I mean, optimally, right? No guns all over the world.
Yeah.
That would be the end state in a manner, right? But yeah, I think you're a very foolish person if you think somebody's coming for your guns.
Yeah, because they can't. What Americans need to do is create a society where those guns can't be used for the sake of hurting others. And I'm not saying gun laws are completely discounted, but it starts with all of us. All of us need to push to make the society better, because the mass shootings, like I said, are a direct result of the failing American society. And that must be changed.
Yeah. There's one major thing I want to point out about gun violence and stuff. First off, it's gun violence kills the most children in the United States, and then motor vehicles. Okay. Second thing, if you get shot in the United States, there's a 40-something% chance that it's a cop that is shooting you. Now, I got an idea. disarm the cops. So
Yes.
and now, yo, we take that. We can take the gun money, and to be fair, a little extra armor. That's put on some Iron Man. We'll make it cool looking too. They can put fucking stickers and shit or their favorite anime. We give them some helmets,
You
give them
turn
the
them
body
into
armor,
knights.
and
Yeah.
then we give them their ticket pad and their pencil, and they can walk around in their armor handing out tickets to people for being poor and not able to get your fucking headlight fixed.
That's a dystopian novel if I've ever heard the concept for one. Yeah, it's I think this comment puts it pretty good too. No amount of weapon banning fixes the anger and hate in a person that drives them to kill another. And that anger and hate is manifested in a society that fails its people, right? People turn to dark places when you don't give them anywhere else to turn to. So, Americans, if you want to stop gun violence, you have to fix your society. You have to make sure that you have a society where people don't just think, I'm going to randomly kill a group of kids today. They pick on the defenseless because they know that if they walk into like a gun store with an AR-15, they're going to get shot immediately. Same thing with like anywhere else, rather than a farm or a police station.
And real quick, define mass shooting, right? So, because think about this. I would say, like these folks that go in and kill their families and shit, right? That's a mass fucking shooting. Do you count that shit, or do you just count the shit that somehow made it on the news?
It's a domestic shooting.
Yeah, they fucking how they count shit and label shit. Yeah, keep that in mind because I think if you look things like that a little bit, we got way more problem, because that and um, cops 40% chance to kill you, shoot you. It's like 18-20% for a stranger. That's that mass shooting, but all that other is your friends and family. So like 40-50% of the time you get shot, it's a friend or family member. Most of the other time, it's a cop, and then it's a mass shooter. That's the hierarchy of death we have in the United States.
Most gun deaths are suicides. When they give the total death numbers, they don't realize they are indicating the system that creates so much despair and that we have an abnormally high suicide rate. I don't know if suicides
And
are they?
our suicides are ridiculous, but I was going to say that is something about gun buyback programs that, like, because availability to the weapon for somebody with mental health, they are way more likely to shoot themselves. Let's understand this. The mass shootings are less but
Yeah, mentally ill
both
people are
bad,
more likely.
all bad.
Yeah,
but yeah. So what was I saying? I forgot.
most gun deaths in the United States suicides?
Yes, they are. They
Oh,
are.
damn.
Yes, Bill is on top of it.
That just proves our point. Again, it's the result of a crumbling society. That that is absolutely horrific. 2 out of 3 cases of cited gun deaths or suicides when they say total gun deaths annually. Thank you so much, Bill Bradley. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate interacting with the audience like this and them giving us these figures to work with. Now I'm looking at CNN right now. That's right behind my computer, as you could probably see in the reflection of my glasses. And the headline is very, very contentious. The headline is, "Should teachers be armed?" Austin, what do you think of that?
Oh man, I don't know. A lot of ways. It sounds like a good way to get more kids killed. Uh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I will say I'd rather have a teacher with a fucking gun than a cop, but that's
Right.
me. Uh,
Yeah. But
but it's once again they there's a set list of points that they bring up every time this happens. You could I mean they probably copy and paste that shit like, hey y'all, we got a mass shoot today. I'm gonna send out that mass text, let y'all know all the talking points. So like put more doors in, give teachers guns, give cops more guns, training. Oh, don't let them do this, but they'll just do it anyway. Uh, more money. Let's listen to everybody. I mean, it is no shit. A
this
fucking militarized surveillance state
they,
horseshit motherfucker.
they want to turn schools into full-fledged prisons. It's bad enough that prison architects also design schools. You have to fucking turn schools into like barbed wire having, cops surrounded, teachers armed, motherfucking like houses of death. Really?
Well, dude, that's just good training for our workers, dude. Don't you get that, man? Like, we need these kids in these schools scared to death every day and learning how to be slaves to rich people. That's the plan. Stick to the plan.
I will say this, teachers having guns, like, okay, I'm not saying that just because you're a teacher, you shouldn't have a gun. But in terms of the teachers having guns in the classroom, I'm just going to say it. Y'all are going to kill more kids because I'm no shade to people who are teachers, but I need to get something across. The public education system, which is a public institution, is designed to serve the needs of the state. Our public education institutions don't educate. They turn students into obedient workers. It's very authoritative. It's very scheduled. It's very formal. You have to ask permission to go to the fucking bathroom. Like I said, prison architects design public schools, and you're graded, and the teachers have complete and total authority over you. And we have all of us, every last one of us, have had cases in our childhood where teachers have just blatantly abused their powers. We all have that one teacher that we go, fuck, I wish you didn't show up to school tomorrow. Or, God, that's a wedding ring on your finger? Who would marry you? We all have those scumbag teachers. And coupled with the fact that teachers are tasked with turning children into obedient little wage slaves. And I mean, I was in school for a while when I found out that teachers in my province are unionized. Teachers in my province are unionized. They have a lot of power. Now, we all know that the public education system is shit. Nobody needs to explain that, right? Now, I think of all the ways the public education system hurts kids. You know, those creepy teachers that sexually harass their students, or they point out the fact, oh, you're wearing a crop top, go to the principal's office. I think about those teachers that just harass their students or yell at them or break their cell phones. I think of the all the evidence that shows that homework does nothing for your kids but fuck with them, right? The teachers in my province have striked over and over and over and over again, dozens of times when I've gone to school, right? It never got better for the students. They always striked for themselves and their wages. They never cared about making things any better for their students because at the end of the day, their job as teachers is to preserve the existing hierarchy, and that includes doing nothing to threaten their own position. Why the fuck would you give those people guns on the job? Not only that, it would be impractical as fuck. You would have to pay them extra so that they could train themselves how to use the fucking guns, and you would have to put a secure ass gun safe into every single classroom. You can't just keep that shit in the fucking dress.
But this is the thing, to admit the real issue. This is all this is to not ever talk about the real issue, which is white supremacy.
Yeah. Like, you can't turn schools into fucking prisons. Stop it. White supremacy is the main issue here. Classism is the issue here. Poverty and poor material conditions is the issue here.
Because it's definitely not police resources and training.
Oh God, no. All that
It's
money,
not that.
all of that equipment, all of that talk that the police give. And for what? To stand outside a school and let this guy just blast all those kids with his gun and hold back the parents if they try to save them. Bullshit that they didn't know that anyone else was in the building. Bull fucking shit. They were fucking lying bastards. But what am I saying? They're cops. They just signed up so they could brutalize minorities. They didn't want to actually fight anybody who had the capability of fighting back. Fucking bastards. It's absolutely abysmal. But yeah, we can't turn schools into fucking prison complexes. And don't give teachers guns, because you're going to get a lot of kids shot, especially black kids. Black kids are going to get shot in classrooms a lot because you know that there are a bunch of racist ass teachers that are in the public education school system that single out and yell at and bully black, brown, and indigenous kids so much. You're going to give them guns? Really? Really? I wouldn't say. I'm not going to be comfortable sending my kid. My kid will probably be a white kid if I meet another white person, or if I'm not going to be comfortable sending my kid to a classroom like with someone who's armed. Imagine a black parent or indigenous parent or a Muslim parent or a parent who is part of a minority who sends their kid to school with someone who has a gun.
Hey, you missed a comma. Pop, 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 pop.
Yeah, that's how it is. That's how it is, 100%. And I can't stand the people who somehow think that, it's an easy issue to fix. Just give teachers guns.
You know what? I quote me if I'm wrong. Quote me if I'm wrong. I think Mr. Whitman, from our earlier example, I believe he was a teacher at some point, but I can't. Let me double check that. So, a teacher with a gun. There you go.
My God, just goes to show. I'm gonna go ahead and start wrapping up the show here because I did do sort of an intro show and I'm going past my time quite a bit, and I don't want to overdo it. But in the 3 minutes that we do have, I want to thank everyone for coming on to the stream, and we will be discussing these topics further in depth later on. And I think this comment is actually a good thing to send it off on. As long as capitalism exists, there will always be an oppressed underclass who lack resources who will have to send their kids to public schools. Yeah. And as long as capitalism exists, society will always be absolutely terrible to the point where mass shootings are a common thing. So America, if you want to stop your mass shootings, you have to fix your society. Gun restrictions and gun laws are a good first step, but you have to take more drastic action to fix your crumbling civilization. I want to thank Austin for coming on here with me and bringing his expertise. He's a good comrade for those reasons, and I respect him immensely. I'm going to have more discussions with him about this stuff so we could do more presentations on guns in the future. And I'll try to invite my cousin on one of these days, considering he's a little bit of a gun nut himself, but he's also a leftist who concerns himself with gun safety and gun violence in society. So
we need to find some hunters that know how to spear hunt pigs in the wild. That'd be some good training.
That is a metal fucking sport, bro.
If I don't get it done in the next couple of years, I ain't never gonna get up there. Them motherfuckers are dangerous as shit, and I want somebody on back up with a pistol. Ain't gonna
wild boar are a fucking problem in the States, bro. Austin, tell the folks at home what you got going on and what you got coming up and where they can find you.
It is summer. I do hope it is a summer of rage and action for everybody out there. I'm intermittently on PVN channel, trying to get on Twitch a little bit more, but really what I'm trying to do is build my mutual aid networks around here. You got some healthcare actions coming up and work there. people out there, if go join something, the IWW, the SRA. There you go. That's it. We forgot to mention
The SRA. Join the SRA, everyone.
Yep. Do that. I love y'all. Much love.
We love y'all. All right. Good night, everybody. We'll catch you on Wednesday's panel. Good evening.
Wow.